Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Tennyson E Stead, the writer and director of Quantum Theory. Coming to you today with a video blog on where ideas come from in film. I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple weeks with people who are excited about the idea of directing because they think a director is an idea man. Anyone who's been reading my developmental breakdown blogs knows that I do not subscribe to the notion that idea men exist in Hollywood in any productive sense. And I want to talk a little bit about what does exist in their place. So when we produce a show, and we're going to talk about quantum theory and we're going to talk about repertory film companies because that's what we have here at Eight-Sided Films, but these basic concepts apply across the board. At a repertory company, we produce shows in groups, and in this case, of 4 films. And the idea is we're going to produce 4 films and then take a break, see where we're at with the audience, see what makes sense in terms of budgets for the next 4, and how wide we should be going with distribution, and how expensive those shows should be, and what people are responding to and what they're not. Kind of take stock of the situation periodically. So we produce a group of 4 shows, and the objective of each individual show is to work together as a season of content that does basically 2 things. We want to make sure that the audience can see that we understand what they enjoy and what entertains them, so that they trust us to do that. And at the same time, we want to challenge them enough so they don't necessarily know what we're going to do next or what our approach is going to be to any particular piece of content, so that they have a reason to come and watch and be surprised. Because if there's no surprise, why would you buy a ticket? Now, Quantum Theory in particular was a good production for the first show because we wanted the audience to get to know us and why we're fun and why we're good to work with, and the characters in the show have dynamics between them that are very similar to the dynamics that we work with as a group. So they're silly and they're funny, but they're also very professional, and they work hard together, and they demand a lot from each other, and they grow. The ways in which they poke each other and prod each other and get things out of each other are the ways that we tend to do it as a company. And it's a good way to make ourselves initially vulnerable to the audience and say, hey, this is kind of what we have going on, and you can do great things with this. So that was the idea. That was the need that led us to create the content that is now the story of Chelsea and Roe, who are 2 inventors and quantum physicists and biology people, respectively, who build this device that lets them change reality by thinking about it, and then it gets stolen by a defense contractor and they have to find a way to get it back. That's the core mission. But it's not like the company is in service to the idea here. The idea was generated because the company and the audience have needs that need to be met. So I come in as a director. I happen to write the screenplay as well, so I built a screenplay that accomplishes all the needs that we have, and I had ideas as a screenwriter to sort of help fill all those ideas and flesh it out and make it something more than just, those specific needs, because we can do a lot more with the movie. We can create a lot more performance opportunities, and we can challenge a lot more people, and we can have a lot more fun than just doing this one simple thing, right? So my job is to make sure that as a screenwriter, I'm giving everybody jobs, basically. I'm giving everybody stuff to do that challenges them and excites them and makes it fun for them and gives them a way to have fun with the audience. Because quantum theory is in large respect about having fun. And then I come in as a director and I break down the script in terms of all the things that need to happen in order for us to have a movie instead of a document. And I start bringing in the people who can be challenged by this and presenting the material to them and helping them find their way into it so that they can start solving the problems that are in front of them. My DP, Johnny Durango, needs to eventually bring a camera on set and shoot all this stuff, so we start by developing a plan for how the film is going to look and a basic ethic for the camera as a character. We want to understand who the camera is or what the camera is in the movie, what it's communicating and what its perspective is, and we talk about that. We need the answer to that question so that we can turn around and block the movie and figure out where all the actors are going to be and where all the cameras are going to be positioned. So we solve that problem. And maybe Johnny has the idea and maybe I have the idea, but we sit down and we work it out right? And then we know what the camera is. We take that information and we start using that information as a template to figure out how each individual scene works in terms of camera motion and in terms of, how the actors are going to be positioned. And the same thing is true when it comes to performances. I work with fantastic actors. We most of the time don't even call them ideas, we call them impulses, because impulses have less value and they're faster and they're just going to keep on coming, whereas an idea is something that Einstein has. You know what I'm saying? It's something that changes the world in the hearts and minds of most people who use that word. Impulses you can take or leave. And that's really important as a skill to have when you're working in a collaborative creative process. So I take the script to the actors. I explain the motivations that need to be there and the actions that need to be there in order to get the character from the beginning of the script to the end of the script in a fundamentally convincing way. And the rest of it, they come, or hopefully it's obvious, honestly, in the script. I work with professionals and I don't usually have to explain these things. Usually they look at the action, they say, oh, this person has to do all this incredible stuff. Why would they do such a thing? And they figure it out. But it doesn't matter where those ideas come from as long as the work gets done. And then we sit down and we start solving all the little itty-bitty problems about, well, why does this person say that? Or do they need to say that? Or why am I picking this thing up over here when I'm trying to get over there so quickly? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that thing doesn't need to get picked up. Or maybe there's an even better reason than either of us thought. It completely just changes the whole scene for both of us. All of that stuff comes out of solving problems. That question of do I pick this thing up here or not comes up because the blocking is there and they need to get from one side of the room to the other because that's where the camera is and that's where the job that they're doing is, and they're standing over here. And how do they get there? That problem has to be solved in order for the scene to happen. So we solve the problem and then we find things along the way in solving the problem that make the movie more specific and more interesting. That's how ideas work in cinema. And they all come from labor and work. There is no person who thinks things up and gets paid for it. That job doesn't exist. In a lot of respects, I'm like a sports coach, where I look at a situation, I know the team that we have to beat, I watch a lot of videos and I see how that team works, and I build a plan for using the resources that we have to accomplish those goals. And then the players come in and they're amazing players and they have their own ideas about how that's going to work and their own habits and the things that their bodies do that I don't know that their bodies do, and all these things that happen in the moment. We practice and we practice and we practice and then we play the game. That's the filmmaking process, and managing that process is what directors do. And the most important qualities that a director has are the ability to facilitate that collaboration, the ability to empower people to bring their best work into a project, the ability to clear all of the problems out of the way of the other people that are working under them so that they can do their best work undisturbed by other people's mistakes, and to bring their best selves and their best problem-solving abilities into the mix to make that process as enriching and fun, as exciting for all the other people who are there to solve these problems and get the production from the script to something that can be distributed in cinemas. That's what a director does. And that's the role that ideas have in film. Thank you very much for listening to this 8-sided blog. I will talk to you soon.